Well, in the summer of 2018, letting agents are going to be finding it really tough, with landlords being hit with extra taxation, tenant fee ban, potentially extra long tenants, 3-year tenancies. What can letting agents do to survive, if not even thrive, in this, let's be honest, a bloody hard market?
Well, I think lettings agents have always been perhaps a little bit, what's the right word, undervalued when compared to sales agents. Sales agents can often be the ones that produce the big wins and the big figures, but lettings is a fantastic business, and we all know, a lot of us, even if we've been around for a long time, now really appreciate lettings agents, or the lettings bits of our business, because of the 08-09 crash and the consistent income they produce. But someone said to me the other day that I think there are something like 153 different legal rules that landlords and their agents have to adhere to. So it's becoming ever more difficult to be a landlord and indeed a lettings agent. And of course, I sat on the board of the Property Ombudsman for about 10 years, and the number of lettings complaints once lettings agents were forced to be members was increasing rapidly, because lettings is a very emotional, fast-paced business, and people handle cash. So it was always going to be those one or two bad stories that have led now to the tenants fee ban, the talking about longer leases, which is very frustrating for a lot of lettings agents. But I would characterise the difficulty of lettings agents as one that applies to estate agents as well, which is getting a voice together. The problem is it's always been a sort of divide and conquer thing for the...
Well, you can't talk to your competitors because you'll give them a competitive advantage. And we had that thing with obviously On the Market, but everyone was sitting on the fence waiting for everyone else to jump off the fence.
Yeah. I do think there are some changes coming. I mean, I think that the Property Mark Arla, they have, 7,000 odd members, but there are 20,000, 25,000 estate agents, so they don't have the majority. I think the Property Ombudsman are just changing their board. They've sort of combined the council and the board, and it's now becoming a sort of industry. They're having an industry forum, which I sit on, which will look at issues coming up and hopefully have, because the Property Ombudsman has 90-95% of all agents signed up to it, that could be the first voice out there.
We do need it as an industry, don't we? Need something.
Yeah, and I think the difficulty is reacting as an industry. I think it's very, very difficult. It's all very well having big companies saying, we need this, that, and whatever, but often there is some vested interest. If everyone can get together...
Because you've obviously got the few corporates and you've got the big boys, but the majority of the industry is one or two man band outfits.
Yeah, 80% of the business.
I think you said in a previous video, it's like herding cats.
Well, it is. I mean, these are proper old-fashioned entrepreneurs who are very worried about giving away competitive advantage. They jealously guard what they have. They're highly unlikely to talk to competitors. And getting all of them to have a single voice to talk to government is very, very difficult. So the government is currently imposing more and more legislation on our industry, often coming from bad headlines, which they're knee-jerk reacting to, and it's very difficult. Maybe the new Property Ombudsman setup will be a way of doing that.
And do you think if we have a voice as an industry, then the issues that we're being challenged with probably won't sort them out in the short term, will help in the long term with other issues that might come along?
Yes. But I mean, again...
okay, let's assume that there is no voice. What can agents do on a day-to-day basis to survive? Because they're finding it really hard at the moment. What do you...
Well, I mean...
Because you've been around the block.
Well, you and I have talked about this a little bit, and actually the most... to me, the most beneficial way of doing better as an agent and the way it will need to work in the future is a little bit based on the American system. The American realtors inveigle themselves into their community. So they will go to Rotary Club dinners, football matches, whatever. They will get to know the local community. And it's what I said earlier in one of our earlier interviews, talking about I always used to be rather jealous of one-man bands setting up in an area, getting to know the area really well, because everyone in the area knew who they were. And I think getting into the PR is vital.
Well, it's interesting. I actually teach my clients to do what's called the digital mayor, digital being online, mayor being the local community leader, and actually get involved in the community and talk to people who live and work there about why it's such a brilliant area, and you'll get the eyeballs and the attention of the locals. Does that sound a good idea? A bit like, almost like a little, if you're in Chelsea TV.
Well, it is, but you've got to know how to do it.
Yes.
And actually, just because PR might or might not be a good idea, doing it is a whole different ballgame. A lot of people don't like
videos. No,
they don't like talking to people they don't like talking to groups of people. They can't write content. I mean, I know one of the things you do, for instance, is writing content for estate agents.
I talk about local property market. So if you're in Chelsea, I'll talk about the Chelsea property market.
But having something like that you can just simply put through people's doors in an old-fashioned way so they can read what's going on. I mean, a lot of people don't understand the property market. They don't understand. They think when prices are going down, they think, oh my God, they don't realise it's a great time to upgrade your property. If prices are going down, it's the best time to buy a bigger property.
So do you think we need to be more educational and talk about this?
Well, we've talked about this a few times. Education is what it's all about, but the only way you educate people is often via PR or local or producing decent content, which you can do via your website. But you've still got to get people to go to your website.
True, but again, we've got this wonderful opportunity with social media that you can contact people in your locality by using Facebook targeting and get the message out there. Do you think a lot of agents talk about themselves too much?
Well, the trouble is, people don't want to listen to an agent saying how wonderful they are. They want to listen to them. They want to be told how wonderful they are, and the product they've got is. So you want to say, well, lovely house. Thanks for asking me along. How long have you been here for? Where do you want to move to? Why did you buy it? These sort of questions.
I mean, that is why I absolutely adore my favourite estate agency in the world, and probably if I would never work for an estate agent, but I'd probably work for these guys. Savills are so good at their marketing. You'll never see a leaflet with Savills saying, "Hi, we're Savills, come and use us, we're brilliant because of this, this and this." Their research department chucking out stuff about the local property market is amazing. Why do you think they do that? Is it because...
Well, they do it because they can, and it's very good. It's good research, and they've acquired a good reputation for doing it, and they have some very good...
Because if you look at their share price in the last 5 years... They've gone upwards and everyone's gone downwards. Isn't that interesting?
It has been. I think they've been very, very good at monetising the name. But you've got to remember with Savills that only a small percentage of what they do is residential agency. They do a vast amount of worldwide stuff. They manage huge amounts of property in the Far East. They're a very diverse company, and they are a public company. As you say, talking about shares, so they can raise money where they need to. But don't forget also there's been this peculiar thing with those sort of brands where a lot of people, they've developed such a good brand that people will instruct Savills because they feel they deserve it. I mean, so they can turn around to their friends and say, well, who's selling your house? So Savills, it must be a very big house or something, So there's a lot of that at play. So I think they've taken themselves into a...
Do you think other agents could copy Savills and get up there? Not straight away.
If they're a local agent and they're really putting out the right content and giving the right impression for what they do. But as I said, an awful lot of agents aren't very efficient in the way they think, and they're not very... Because the majority of the people that own these companies are the sort of middle-aged guys, guys and girls, mostly guys, I'm afraid, they haven't taken a lot of this stuff on board. They think that out.
Well, it worked 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Works not so well now, but we'll still keep banging our head against the wall.
Yeah, and I think there's a need for them to educate their public. There's also a need for someone to educate them on what might and what not. There's such a plethora of things they can do. I understand that it's often like being, crikey, what do I do next? But actually, some of the sensible stuff that they've done, most people will understand that if they go out and talk to people in the community, it's going to work for them. If they can do that more efficiently, as you say, with simple, but there's some great outsourced social media companies who help with those sort of things as well.
I think the magic thing is talk about the locality, talk to local people, talk about what's happening at the school, what's happening at the fete, become part of the community, become hyper-local, and you'll get the attention and the interest of people.
Yeah.
Would you not agree? Anything else as a letting agent that they think you could do to thrive in this market?
Well, I mean, I mentioned earlier this issue of REITs. There's this fascinating thing with this company.
So what does a REIT stand for?
Well, it's a real estate investment trust, and they've tended to be very, very big. They're in 94 countries. They're The rules are that 90% of the profits have to be distributed to the shareholders. It's a way of holding properties. It tends to have been for commercial property.
Yes.
But with the changes, the Section 24 changes to the 2015 Finance Act, suddenly for residential property, it's making a lot of sense for people to put their shares in REITs because you don't have to pay the capital gains tax, you can roll up your allowances, you can defer your capital gains, I should say, not pay it. You can defer it down the line. The people in the REIT can
because this is a different option to putting it into a limited company, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it's... But the interesting thing for estate agents is that some of these REITs, for instance, the one I think I mentioned earlier, Somerset Estates REIT, they will actually pay estate agents a fee for getting their landlords to transfer their properties into the REIT and allow the agent to carry on managing the property. What a good deal is that? So you carry on the management, you get a fee for persuading the landlord, well, no, not persuading, but for introducing the landlord to the option of putting their properties into a REIT.
Hold on, so
if they want to hold on.
So the landlord doesn't have to put it into their own REIT, they can put it into an existing one and almost do them like a club.
Yeah, it's. I mean, setting up a REIT is quite expensive. They're listed vehicles. They're, the one I mentioned earlier cost several £100,000 to list. But once they're there, they're a very good shell for people who own rental properties to put their properties into, because they can, as I said, defer capital gains tax. There are lots of advantages to it.
Are you happy for people to contact you? I mean, I must admit, I didn't know this was going to come up, but that's the beauty of these interviews. Are you happy for people to agents to contact you to talk about this REIT that you have to?
Well, yeah, I mean, they can talk to me about anything, really. I mean, I have my own website, ed-mead.com, which people can ask me questions on, or emead@viewber.co.uk if they want to talk to me about anything.
Excellent. I think the next few years are going to be interesting for both estate agents and letting agents, and I think agents need to open their eyes and adopt change, because if they don't, they're going to die, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. It's an unprecedented time for change. It's partly why I left D&G to go and set up Viewber, because I understood there was a hole in the market. That hole has been changed. Funny enough, we were just talking about entering one of the award things for this year, and we entered it last year. And at that time, we'd done 5,000 viewings. We've been going for about 9 months a year. We now do 5,000 viewings a month, and have just passed 30,000 viewings. So the growth in all of these things is just extraordinary. So fascinating times.
Interesting.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.